So this woman is a stripper. She's also killed a couple people. Now the woman's name is Robyn, and Robyn is 25 when the story starts, and she's living a bit north of Melbourne in Australia. And Robyn works as an adult dancer. And that's great and all, but while she's out here stripping, her real dream is to own a big farm and raise a bunch of horses. The problem is that a dream like that, it's kind of expensive. But see, Robyn believes that she has the perfect way to get herself some money. So one night in 1998, she's working at the club, and while she's there, she meets this guy, George. And George is a gang member, and he's sort of a hired goon. But he meets Robyn, and he thinks she's fine, and Robyn thinks he's fine. And they start flirting and hitting it off, and soon they start dating, and eventually they move in together. Now, it doesn't take long for Robyn to realize something about George. He doesn't actually have the kind of money it would take to get her a farm. He's part of a gang, but he's not like a wealthy criminal or anything. He's just another worker taking orders. But whatever, she stays with him, and years pass. And so now it's 2005, and bam, George suddenly gets arrested for drug possession. And he's sentenced to 5 months in prison. Now, during this 5 months, Robyn decides that this is her chance to move on and find someone who can actually provide the lifestyle that she wants. And that is when she meets this guy, Wayne. Wayne is a personal trainer and he owns his own gym. And see, Wayne, he thinks Robyn is kind of fine. And Robyn thinks Wayne kind of fine. And soon they start dating and things move pretty fast, but they seem to be happy together. But then, Robyn's first boyfriend, George, finally gets out of prison. And by this point, Robyn isn't interested in George anymore. Now she's completely committed to Wayne. But she's still living in the house that she and George were living in when he got sent away. And George doesn't know that she's seeing someone else. And so Robyn starts thinking that maybe if George were to have a tragic accident, maybe there's a way to make a little money off of his death. Because even though George doesn't have a lot of wealth, he does have some possessions that are worth a little bit of money, such as his motorbike, his camper van, his boat, some jewelry, his television, stuff like that. And Robyn wants access to those things. Now, as I said, she's a stripper, not a hitman. And she's not about to commit this murder herself. So she goes to Wayne and she asks him to do it for her. And Wayne hears this proposal and he's like, all right. So one night, that same year, 2005, Robyn is at home with George and she cooks him dinner. And while she's cooking, she secretly crushes some sleeping pills into his food. And he eats them. And before the pills fully kick in, Robyn tells him that she's going out with a friend, and she leaves. That way she has an alibi. And soon, George passes out. And while he's out, Wayne enters the house. And allegedly, he takes George to another location at gunpoint, and blam, he shoots him and he kills him. I say allegedly because no one knows where or exactly how Wayne killed George. We just don't have that information. Regardless, then he dumps George's body in Port Phillip Bay. Now, eventually, George gets reported missing. So police get involved and they start investigating. And unfortunately, they never find George's body. And the case slowly goes cold. Meanwhile, with George gone, Robyn gains control of his possessions. And only 2 weeks after his disappearance, she moves in with Wayne. And she and Wayne continue their relationship like nothing happened, like they didn't just murder someone. Then some time passes, and Robyn still has that dream of living on a farm and raising a bunch of horses. But in addition to that, now she really wants to raise some kids too. So in 2006, she and Wayne agree to sell her assets and George's possessions too, and they buy a 10-acre farm about an hour away in Bittern. And Robyn, she moves there full-time. But here's the thing, Wayne doesn't move there full-time. I guess he loses interest in the idea of settling down and raising a family, or at least he loses interest in the idea of doing it with Robyn. So he doesn't really commit to living on the farm with her. And he continues living mainly in the city and running his gym, And he only visits the farm on occasion, I guess on weekends, just to smash with Robyn. And this creates some tension in their relationship. But then things get worse for them. Because Wayne, behind Robyn's back, he secretly goes out and he gets a vasectomy. And when Robyn finds out, she gets super pissed. Like, how can she have a future with Wayne if he doesn't want kids anymore? So around 2009, they officially break up. But then later, they get back together. And then they separate again, even though they still meet up and smash from time to time. And throughout all this, Robyn ends up living alone on the farm a lot of the time. And so they end up falling behind on the mortgage payments on the farm, and soon enough, they're in a lot of debt. And so Wayne decides that they should sell the farm. Like, they're not even together anymore, so why wouldn't they get rid of it? But Robyn, she doesn't want that. The farm is her lifelong dream, and she's not about to let it go. So they fight about this a lot, and these disagreements, they escalate. And eventually, in 2012, Wayne ends up suing Robyn over this farm, and he ends up getting a restraining order against her as well. That same year, the court forces Robyn to leave the farm. So now she has nothing. And sometimes she'll have to sleep at her parents' house, and sometimes she'll have to sleep in her car. So she really has lost everything. And she's devastated by all this. And to cope with the situation, she starts drinking a lot and doing a lot of drugs. Now, over time, she starts growing resentful toward Wayne. Like, how dare he take everything from her and destroy her dream of having a horse farm? And so, because she's had other partners before him killed, she starts thinking, why not have Wayne killed too? And so she gets to work on this idea. And she ends up going to the guy she's dating. This guy, Torsten. And she's like, will you help me kill my ex Wayne for me? And Torsten's like, cool. Then she asks Torsten's friend, this guy, John Ryan. And she's like, will you help me kill my ex Wayne for me? And John Ryan's like, cool. So they come up with a plan. And this plan is to ambush Wayne in his own apartment and kill him and then dispose of the body. So they get to work. And one night, Torsten and John Ryan, they sneak into the parking garage of Wayne's apartment building, and they hide there and they wait for him to arrive. When he finally does arrive, he heads towards his apartment, and suddenly, Torsten and John Ryan appear out of nowhere, and one of them has a baseball bat. And pow, they hit him, and pow, they hit him again and again, until he's not moving. Then, they put him in the trunk of their car, and they speed away. While they're driving, Wayne regains consciousness, and he starts screaming for help. So they pull over, and they get a knife, and they stab him multiple times. Then they strangle him to make sure he's dead. And of course, Wayne doesn't survive that. Then they drive his body over to Mount Korong, and they dump it somewhere around there. Later, Wayne is reported missing, and the local police get involved and they start investigating. And it doesn't take long for them to trace the crime right back to Robyn, Torsten, and John Ryan. And so, bam, they arrest Robyn. And bam, they arrest Torsten, and bam, they arrest John Ryan too. And ultimately, Torsten goes to trial, and he's found guilty, and he's sentenced to 28 years in prison. John Ryan is also found guilty, and he's sentenced to 31 years in prison, while Robyn takes a plea deal, and she gets a total of 39 years in prison.